This is an urgent appeal from the Disasters Emergency Committee. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled their homes to escape conflict in Ukraine, leaving jobs, belongings and loved ones behind. They need shelter, food and water. You can help. To donate online, search DEC or text radio to 70150 to give £10. Thank you.
Streaming 24/7, this is Brum Radio.
Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
I'm joined on the telephone by Michael Mckell, who is playing Cliff in We Will Rock You, which is touring the UK currently until the 10th of September 2022. And it's coming to Birmingham Hippodrome from the 4th to the 30th of July, which is a reasonably long engagement. Good afternoon, Michael. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us on what is a ridiculously warm day today.
Don't complain. It's good. The sunshine's good. It makes everyone smile a bit.
It does actually, I think, as well. And in Birmingham at the moment, there's a big sort of excitement in the city because of the Commonwealth Games Festival
Games, yeah, of course.
and the festivals that are surrounding it. For those that don't know, you worked on BBC Doctors for several years, and that is filmed in Birmingham. How does that feel to be coming back here?
Well, I have a deep affection for Birmingham. I love my time at Doctors, and the only reason I left Doctors was because of my kids, because just the nature of this business, it does take you away. But Doctors is very full on, and the guys work very hard because you're shooting in multiple episodes, and it's normally quite a small cast. And at the time I was in it, my boy Louis had his first game for the school, and they tried to schedule me out. It was on a Friday, and I was in 26 scenes that day. And Saturday, when I'd get back home, I'd normally take to Saturday morning training, and we were just kicking around in the car park just before all the kids arrived. And I said, "So come on, tell me about the game yesterday." He said, "Oh well, it was great. I scored the winning goal, Dad."
Wow.
And his lip went. He's only like 10 years old. I said, "Why are you getting upset?" He said, "Oh, you weren't there, Dad." And on the Monday, I went to the producers. I said, "Look, I love this job. I just won a very, awards, whatever they are. It's always nice to be told you're good at something. And I just won a Best Actor award at British Television Award."
Wow.
And I said, "I love this job. I love these people, but my kids are going to be kids for such a short period of time." And so they were good, and they wrote me out. I said, just kill him, so I never have the temptation to come back again. But and I'm still in contact with the guys. In fact, my girl, Claudia Grace, is now third assistant director on a BBC show, but she started her career at Doctors and in independent film. So I have a huge affection for the city and the way it's grown. I mean, I bought my apartment there during that time at Doctors, and when I go back there, I can see it's a thriving city, and it's a great place to be. I love Birmingham, as you can tell. I love
absolutely,
Birmingham.
And that's so wonderful to hear. Did you make it into Birmingham when you were in Wolverhampton the other week?
Not really, no, because it's this tour is quite full on, and we literally travel on a Sunday, so you get very little downtime. Because obviously we had to take the theatres that were available, because this is we've re-embarked upon this tour after the pandemic, and so if you look at our dates, we literally are crisscrossing the country, sometimes like 4 or 5 hour drives. But that's the way it is. It's like being in a circus. The circus comes to town, as I say, we come to town on the 4th of July, and so we're going to rip off the roof in Birmingham.
Fantastic. And it's a show that it's a big show in terms of the length of time it lasts as well, because it's 2 hours, and I think it says it's 2 hours and 45 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, you got an interval in that, because we're cramming in 24 hit songs that are part of the fabric of most people's lives, young and old. The one thing that I've realised with this leg, because of the success of the movie, there is a younger audience there. There's a demographic that's come to this music. I mean, most people I'm 63. I'm the oldest person in the cast. So I remember, I used to have a pools round. You couldn't have it now. I was about 11 years old, and I used to collect the pools, which is like the football pool. You just collect money. And there was a house on because I grew up in the East End, and there was a house. It was like quite a posh house, and I remember I could see through the crack in the door when they were going to get their change. Top of the Pops would be playing on a Thursday, and it'd be Bohemian Rhapsody been number one for many weeks.
Yes.
I'd see it, and they had a colour telly, and the guy said, "Have you never seen this?" I said, "Well, I've never seen it in colour. I've only ever seen it." And he said, "Oh, do you want to?" And I remember sitting on his white settee and watching Bohemian Rhapsody in colour. And there's a section of our show, without any spoilers, is where a clip from that video appears, and literally I'm transported every night to my pools round when I was a kid.
Wow.
Because, as I say, I grew up, wanting to be, I'm very fortunate. I had a record career, and I sold my first record deal at 19 and got out of the East End. There are very few ways to get out of the background I came from. Some was sport, and my mate Terriola went on to play professional football, and music is another one, and various other schemes that are involved Her Majesty's government. And some of my mates did a little bit of training there as well. But so I got out. I signed my first year of Phonogram and went on tour with 10cc, made my first album with Chris Newell as my producer. And my friend Ian and I, we started out together in our school band. And we still write together. We recorded, and I saw it during lockdown. A lot of my mates were going crazy because obviously everyone was, especially the arts, we were sort of left a bit stranded, really, because there was, and if you're a musician, even more so. Yeah. And so we put an album together. I wrote 13 songs with Ian, and we did it remotely. Brilliant. And I mean, there was a sad moment in that, because a friend of ours, Sean McNulty, a bass player, I'd spoken to him, and I said, "Oh, look, we're doing something." He said, "Well, I'm a bit ill at the moment." So I said, "Well, let me get this out of the way, and I'll come and see you." Unfortunately, he was more than ill, and he died. Right. And there's a moment in this show where I'm very fortunate. I get to sing "Days of Our Lives," which, if anyone knows their pop history, was Freddie's last pop promo show in black and white. And Roger Taylor wrote it, and it won loads of awards. It's a fantastic song. In fact, I went to see Queen at the O2 recently, and it's almost like with Love of My Life. It's like the centerpiece of their live show. It's a very important part. And so I get to sing for all my mates that I've lost over the years, and it's a special moment for me on stage, and I feel a responsibility to the work, because obviously, as you rightly said, this music is part of the fabric of most people's life, even if they're not a Queen fan. People of a certain age will remember that 22 minutes at Live Aid where Freddie just literally held court, and then the movie. There was another, and obviously recently with the Jubilee celebrations and Brian rising above the gates of Buckingham Palace. There are many things that are bandied around in modern language, legacies and legends, and but this is really a band with a real legacy of work that is probably only comparable to the Beatles, that dipped into so many different genres of music. Couple that together with a man who's written hit comedy series across 4 decades, Ben Elton, who works live as well and understands pop culture. Yeah. And has written, this is the third time I've worked with Ben. I worked with him on Tonight, the Rod Stewart musical, and then on a TV series called Bless, where Ben's that rare creature in this business where he promised me something and actually came up with it. He said, "I'm going to write you something." I said, "Everyone says that." Ben, A&R men, managers have always been saying, "We're going to make you a star." Yeah. And 3 months later, he said, "I've written an 8-part series. We've got read through." Wow. Robert Webb, Russell Brand, Otto Hanlon. I went, "Oh, okay." And so when he was going to direct this 20th anniversary, wasn't a question. I was on board, and we had a great time. We had a great time in rehearsals, and even now, he's come because he came over from Australia to do it, and then he came to see the show a couple of weeks ago. He said, "All right, I've got," and he had another idea. He's like, constantly tweaking it and making it as good as it. Ben's one of these characters that he just wants to be better, to reach further, and it's funny. He wrote this 20 years ago about a place in the future where crowds can't gather, there's no live music, and education and all music is online.
Wow.
And it has a different sort of relevance.
Yes.
And, I mean, what's lovely about this, like recently we played Cardiff to 40,000 people, and I got to walk through the theatre and just talk to some people, and they were thanking us, we were thanking them. When we opened in Portsmouth, Brian May came on stage and played Bohemian Rhapsody with us. Now, the last time I'd seen him do that, I was in the audience. It was 4 days after Lennon had been shot, and he and Freddie sang Imagine. It was at the play at Wembley when there used to be Wembley Empire Pool.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that. And the whole of Wembley cried. Well, that night in Portsmouth, I could see, because I've got terrible eyesight, the first 3 rows were in tears. I looked at the cast, and they were in tears as well.
Yeah.
Because it was a cathartic moment where, these kids that are athletes, our dancers, when you take 2 years out of an athlete's life and you don't know whether you're going to be able to do this job again, it was a really special moment for them and for the audience. And for me, it was just like, there's some reason I'm there. I'm very fortunate. I've had a record career in the past, and I'm getting to go out and sing live with a great live band, great singers, in front of packed audiences.
Yeah.
We're playing Peterborough at the moment, and they said, we've never seen audiences like this. It's just, we've never seen this kind of response ever. And so it's a very special show.
Yeah. Apart from Panto, this will have been the longest residency of a show at the Hippodrome since lockdown's taken place. So to have something that's pitching up and being on the campus there for 3 weeks, they're obviously thrilled to have you guys turn up there as well.
And we're thrilled to be out there doing it as well.
Yeah, I think it's just wonderful to see. I think they love when they have a show that comes and just sits in situ for weeks at a time, because it shows how much particularly a Birmingham audience loves a production then as well. And there's very few shows that I can think of that have that kind of draw to them. So I think it's going to be wonderful to see this. As I said to you before, I've never seen this show before, and I always hold off reading about it before I then go and review it. And this is a show that I already know plenty about, just from its history and just from its knowing it was on at the West End for such a long time. I'd see the posters in the West End, and I think there was the statue that would be outside of the theatre in the West End as well.
Freddie, yeah. I think that's in Rogers Garden. I was there the opening night just as a guest, and because Robert De Niro was in the audience, because Robert is one of the co-producers.
Yes.
And I got it. It was because I was a fan of Queen, and so I got it. It was pure entertainment, and it was a different kind of musical. You probably read it. Theatre critics panned it, but the audiences went, no, this is like 2.5 hours of pure entertainment. And that's, I think, there was a time where I used to question my career and think, am I doing anything that any worth? Should a grown up be doing this? And then a friend of mine, Colin Wells, said, look, if you are a nurse and you've worked a back-to-back shift, and you go to a show and she sits for 2.5 hours and is taken away, you've done a job.
Absolutely.
You've done something that has, we flounce around and sing a few songs, but it's fun, and it's rock and roll, and it has heart, and it has soul, and that connects. And if you can make people laugh, cry, and cheer in the same evening, it's a bit special.
It has such a powerful positive impact on people's mental health, and I think that's wonderful.
That's one thing I've realised.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I've spoken to actors before who've been like, well, there's more important things going on there, I'm like, but that's not actually true, because what happens in our when in our downtime is so important to us resetting and being able to go out and face a day at work or face a day of tough other things. So having performers perform for us and knowing how hard they work to do that, it has huge amounts of value. And I always find it amazing. And when people started to first come back out on tour last October, I was so grateful because it encouraged me to be out of the house. It encouraged me. I'd been sat on my sofa for a year, and it encouraged me to be out and about. Absolutely. And it was just, going for little walks around the house and that sort of thing, to being back in the public. And even though we were sat there in our masks for a few months, it gave me the encouragement of going out and seeing shows and making sure that I was reviewing things and then telling people to go and review things as well. So I think that's absolutely wonderful just to see that as well. You've got a show coming to Amazon Originals, you said. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah. 7 years ago, Matt Hawkins had a project. Matt is a young actor that I met quite a long time ago, and sort of recognised a bit of me in there. Because when I first said to him, we had a careers officer who used to come around the school, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to become an actor. And he said, people from this school don't become actors, and gave me a paper on Bowater Scott, which was a local paper mill that made toilet rolls. So that was my career school. Yeah. So, and when because I had a bad car crash at the age of 30, and I was signed to EMI at the time. It was on my third solo record deal. And I had a car crash, couldn't walk for the best part of 2 years. And again, somebody came into my life, because you have to have therapy when you have a big car crash. And this woman, lovely woman, Heather, said, what do you want to do now, Michael? I said, well, I'm going to train. I'm going to become an actor. And she said, don't you think you should set your sights a little lower? And I said, I can't see you anymore because you're going to get in the way. And so there have been two moments in my life where people have told me I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And so I recognized that in Matt, because I did go out and do it, and I made it happen. And Matt was that kind of character. And he had this story. His father had been a British champion and had died very young. And so he had this story that he knew of Jem Belcher in the 1800s, who was the first British heavyweight champion. And he wrote a script, which was a great script. And we shot a 20-minute promo, and we tried to raise some money. And then money came in, money came out, money came in, and eventually it's been made. Ray Winston, Russell Crowe, Matt playing the lead. I've got a bit in it, which is fantastic, but it got made, and it comes out on Amazon Originals on the 22nd
Fantastic.
Of July, and it's called Prize Fighter, story of Jem Belcher.
And how does it feel to have those big names involved in that project as well?
I'm very fortunate. I mean, I've met Ray before. We're patrons of a children's charity, so we've met socially. It's the first time I've worked with Ray. But he doesn't. I've been very fortunate. I've done 37 movies. I've done movies with Sean Bean, Brad Pitt, Tom Wilkinson. I've done big TVs. I'm very fortunate, and that was the other thing about being in Doctors, because I got to work with actors I grew up watching. I remember doing a two-hander with Richard Bryars, which was just a complete joy. So I've never been really fazed by that thing. I mean, the only person that ever really fazed me was Jimmy Greaves, because all my life I wanted to be Jimmy Greaves. You probably don't even know who Jimmy Greaves is.
No, I do know who he is. Yeah, Saint and Greavesy, I remember him for.
He was just my hero, because I adored football.
Wow.
And I was very fortunate. It was one of those weird. Terry Venables got me my first record deal, because I used to play in a pub in Leighton that Terry owned, and he pitched up one Sunday, and there was a queue around the block, and he pitched up with Ray Davies and Chrissy Hyatt. And he said to the owner, Brian, he said, "Does this happen every week?" He said, "Yeah, this guy's here every Saturday and Sunday with his band." And yeah. And so he sat me down the Sunday night. He said, "Do you know anyone in this business?" I went, "No." He went, "Right, okay, I'm going to send a car for you, and I'm going to introduce you to people tomorrow." So on the Monday, a car pitched up. My mum looked out the window. She said, "I think someone's dead." I said, "Why?" She said, look at that car. Because she's only seen cars like that with someone dies.
Absolutely.
And I went, no, that's for me.
Wow.
And this car took me to a place called Morton's. I was only a kid. And in Mayfair. And Terry held court. And I got my manager, Deke Ireland, met with Chris Neal, and we made our first album, and the wheels started rolling. So that football connection's always been there with that's sort of started the ball rolling. And as I say,
so exciting.
Jimmy Greaves would be the only person that would faze me.
That's brilliant. I always remember him being on TV AM. That's how I remember him from. He used to be there in the morning.
He had two careers, because not only was he a phenomenal footballer, and goal scorer, and then he had a TV career, because there was a personality there.
It's brilliant when they have that transfer, and obviously if you're self-transferring from one genre to another, and one role going from behind the scenes to in front of the camera is just wonderful, and it really demonstrates your skill and talent in doing that. So I think that's wonderful to see as well. Thank you so much for chatting about this today.
Oh, pleasure talking to you, mate.
It's really exciting.
Obviously, enjoy the show, and we'll have a beer.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. For myself, it's I'm at the Hippodrome from Birmingham Hippodrome from the 4th to the 30th of July. The tour continues until the 10th of September. If you check out birminghamhippodrome.com and click on the what's on, We Will Rock You. It was delayed from 2020. So it was a delayed tour for 2 years. Were you already in place to be on in 2020, or did you come to it a bit later?
No, we started it, and obviously the pandemic kicked in, and so all bets were off. So nobody knew what we were going to do, and it was a lot of reinvention and I've always been one to believe in that you have to keep reinventing. But one thing I did realize is that there are, at 63, when you try to apply for a job and all you've ever done is either play a guitar, sing, and act, there are not a lot of jobs out there. I applied for 270 jobs, and I got two interviews. I drove for Amazon for a day, which was interesting, and which is another story. And I went into another job for a big supermarket, and I had a physical interview, and as I took my mask off, the guy went, "You can't work here." I went, "Oh, we ain't had the interview yet." He said, "No, but you're in Essex Boys. You're an actor. You can't work here." I went,
it's funny, isn't it? It's
okay.
So mad.
I said, "Well, I've got 3 kids. I've got to go work, mate."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I said, "There's no other jobs."
Yeah.
And he said, "No, it won't work."
Yeah.
And so when this came up, of course I'm going to go back onto it. And because I said, because Ben was doing it, weren't even a question.
Amazing. Well, I'm thrilled to see this. The website is queenonline.com. So that's part of the main Queen website there that you find the details of the tour on. It's brilliant it must be brilliant to feel in that fold of the band and Queen itself, so much so that they treat it as part of their website and part of their branding.
They're very hands-on. Very hands. They come to rehearsals, they come to run-throughs, they come and see the show. As I said, Brian came on stage and played with us in Portsmouth. They are very hands-on. It's very important how the mix sounds, because we're out there maintaining and upholding their music, and it's important. We have a responsibility to that, and so it's important to everyone involved.
I as I say, I can't wait to come and see this. I got the press invite a few days ago, and I'd emailed straight back and said, please put me down for tickets for this. So I'm really looking forward to coming to see this production when it comes to Birmingham. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us, Michael, today about this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.